Hi guys, this is Corporate Governance Tutorials. Together with the notes you have been given, the core text, the supplementary text, also when you visit online, the slide shares, the PowerPoint, all articles and journals are all there for your learning. I want to implore you to try as much as possible to acquire the knowledge that is required for this particular topic, both on the short run and in the long run. So right now, I'm going to take you through the corporate governance tutorials, which is a summary of the notes that you have been given. So I hope you go along with me. What is corporate governance? We said it is the set of process, laws, policies, institutions that affect how corporate businesses direct, administer, and control itself. There are relationships among stakeholders, and the purpose and the focus of this relationship is to ensure that corporate businesses' goals are attained and corporations are well governed. So, corporate governance is about how corporations are governed in order to attain the goals and the objectives of corporate businesses. When it comes to corporate governance, it has to do with the management of companies as regard the board members, the shareholders, stakeholders, among others. So all of this involve control, processes, engagement at various times. And without proper corporate governance, business organizations will not be able to achieve and attain its goals successfully in any society. And this will affect the growth not only of such an organization, but of also the economy as a whole. There are various principles of corporate governance. One is sustainable development of all stakeholders. And the focus of this is to ensure that individuals that are involved in any business they grow as businesses are sustained. Effective management and distribution of wealth. It focuses on the proper and efficient utilization of wealth so that stakeholders can benefit maximally. Discharge of social responsibilities. Of course, businesses have responsibilities to their immediate societies, and there is need for them to be accepted. Therefore, corporate governance focuses also on or builds its principle on corporate social responsibilities, giving back to the society. There are best management practices that must also be put in place when it comes to optimum creation of wealth, such as appointment of board of director members, executive and non-executive members of the board, compensation of the stakeholders and the shareholders, among others. All of these, if they are done without fear or favor, will ensure the effectiveness of corporate governance. Of course, laws must be obeyed and adhered to ensure that there is social and economic balance. Ethical standard is very, very critical when it comes to integrity, transparency, accountability in dealing with various stakeholders in any business organization. Now, if organizations are built on these principles, then there is what we call good governance, which businesses will enjoy, and stakeholders and shareholders will also enjoy at the same time. There are different pillars of corporate governance. The first one is accountability. When it comes to shareholders, they want to have knowledge of how their finances are being managed, controlled, how the organization is being directed. So, board of directors are expected to be accountable to the shareholders, and management also is expected to be accountable to the board of directors. Fairness. Shareholders' rights must be protected, such as the right to vote and to be voted for. When it comes to treatment of shareholders, irrespective of either their minorities, they must be treated with equality. And when there are violations, there must be justice and fairness in handling situations that will not cause favoritism. Transparency. Financial reports, situations and circumstances, performances, ownership structures all must be disclosed accordingly in a timely manner. This will ensure that stakeholders and shareholders build their trust when it comes to how the resources they have invested are being managed and being utilized in any corporation. Independence. This has to do with procedures and structures that are put in place to minimize and prevent completely conflict of interest. Like the agency theory, where there is a relationship between the agent, who are the company executives, and the principal, and the principals are the shareholders. Also, there must be the directors and advisors' independence from influence that can affect adversely the progress of a company in corporate governance. The benefits of corporate governance are numerous, such as ensuring corporate success and economic growth, maintaining confidence when it comes to investors. Because when corporate businesses are transparent and honest, it avails investors to be able to invest the capital, and that will help company to raise a lot of capital efficiently and effectively. Also, it lowers the capital cost. Firms with better governance present less agency risk to shareholders, and this will lower cost of equity capital. There is also a positive impact on the share price. It is important to know that corporate governance play a very vital role when it comes to stabilizing the financial market. Also, when it comes to increasing the competitiveness of public shareholder companies when there is transparency. And this will ensure that there is balance of interest. And also it provides proper inducement to the owners as well as managers. This helps to achieve objectives that are set and which are in the interest of both the shareholders and the organization. Good corporate governance also minimizes wastage, corruption, and risk and mismanagement. It also helps in brand formation and development as well because the image of every organization matters because it can go a long way in increasing the profit generated at various times. And it also ensures that organizations are managed in a manner that fits the best interest of all. Corporate governance codes set out standard of good practices when it comes to composition and development of the board, remuneration and compensation, accountability and audit for the purpose of transparency, relations with shareholders, which helps when it comes to the confidence that shareholders have in investing their capitals. There are various common grounds for revising the codes, such as the legal background, which differ from country to another. For example, in the UK is the common law, in France is civil law. Also, the cultural and political context also differ. For example, Australia uses democracy, China focuses on communism. The business form also determines how code is revised per time. If a business is public corporation or a business is family owned. And also the share ownership, such as the institutional investors that have dominated in the UK and the US, Whereas we have the state ownership in China. There are different reasons for introducing corporate governance code. One is the desire to be more transparent and accountable, considering that shareholders are investing their capital in the business. Two is the desire to increase investor confidence. Three is the financial scandal, corporate collapse, and crises that have engulfed corporate businesses over the years. There are different bodies that issue codes, committees, representatives from different investment communities, also from professional bodies and academics. We have also stock exchange bodies. Then we have different representatives of directors and company secretaries. There are different country guidelines for corporate governance. We have the Commonwealth Association for Corporate Governance, the CACG, that worked with South Africa and Zimbabwe to promote excellence in corporate governance in Commonwealth with two main objectives: focusing on good standard in corporate governance and business practices throughout Commonwealth, and facilitating the development of appropriate institutions that will enable to advance, teach, and disseminate such standards. Another of such guideline is the corporate governance in the EU that is established because of recent scandals in corporate businesses in order to harmonize the rules for creating a single European market. The action plan is focused on corporate governance, capital maintenance and health, groups and pyramids, corporate restructuring and mobility, European private company, and cooperatives and other forms of enterprises. The King Report of South Africa promotes the concept that companies, especially in developed countries, must take into account the interests of the communities where they are operating. Also, boards must apply tests of accountability, fairness, transparency, and they must be responsible towards the stakeholders in the company. The Sarbanes-Oxley Act of 2002 was as a result of various corporate scandals in corporate organizations. The issues covered by the SOX include establishing a public company accounting oversight board, auditor independence, corporate responsibility, and greater financial disclosure. Maximizing human-centered development while remaining conscious of other responsibilities to stakeholders and the environment and the society in general is also the focus of the Sarbanes-Oxley Act. There are different benefits of good corporate governance. One, it enhances confidence of shareholders. This will prevent corruption and malpractices in management. It will also promote fundamental values of free market economy. Growth effect is a situation whereby financial institutions are equipped with information and confidence necessary for them to lend from directly to companies. Stability. Financial crisis is reduced to the barest minimum. Economic development effect. Once businesses grow, there will be flow of financial capital to firms. And this will create employment, will create wealth, ensure development and growth. There are different parties to corporate governance: the stakeholders and the shareholders. A stakeholder is an individual or is a party who has interest in a company or a business. Such an individual or such a body or such a party affects a business, and the business can also impact such a body as well. Employees, board of directors, suppliers, local communities, credit providers such as banks, customers, the government, interest groups such as environmental groups, and many more are examples of stakeholders. Shareholders invest their money to provide capital in organizations. So, in other words, a shareholder has a share in the company. Now, examples of stakeholders, like I mentioned the other time, an employee strengthens the system of human resources management. And an employee increases the labor motivation. When it comes to decision making, an employee is expected to be carried along as well. Also, when it comes to corporate culture, when it comes to contribution to economic growth and social stability. Now, without a stable relationship and cooperation between employees and management, then the value of shareholder will not be maximized. The board of directors is responsible for management of organization. Anything that has to do with the best interest of shareholders, such as policy development and strategic decisions, supervising, accountability, among others. So these are things that board of directors carry out when it comes to their responsibilities as stakeholder in any corporation. Now, you can also read further in your note to see different stakeholders and other responsibilities that they carry out for time.
Can you identify the differences between shareholders and stakeholders? This is an exercise for you. You do it at your own leisure time, and I hope you will refer to it very soon. There are main rights of a shareholder. Number one, voting power on major issues. Voting takes place at the company's annual meeting, and during the meeting, there are elections when it comes to directors and proposals and fundamental changes that affect businesses. Another right is ownership in a portion of the company. Once a business becomes successful, a shareholder has a share, that means owns a piece of something in the company. In other words, they have a claim on a portion of the asset that the company owns. So the more the business generates more profit, the more shareholders see returns. So this is one of the rights of the shareholders. Can you identify and explain the remaining rights of the shareholders? Go through your notes, go through your core text and your supplementary text. We will definitely come back to this assignment you have been given. Corporate governance and board structure. What is a board of directors? It's a group of people who jointly supervise the activities that takes place in an organization, and irrespective of the focus or the motive of such an organization, either for profit purpose or non-profit organization or government agencies. Board of directors are focused on accountability, transparency, efficiency and effectiveness, responsiveness, which is the ability to respond to the rapid changes in the society, forward vision, that means they must be able to project and forecast the future, anticipate, and then rule of law. When we are looking at the board structure, we can focus first on the board size. And board size should be conducive enough when it comes to decision making. It should comprise of people that have various skills and individuals that can look at issues from different perspectives, all for the purpose of the best interest of the company. The size of the board should be limited to encourage efficient decision making. Although there is no prescribed size when it comes to board structure, and a company can decide what best suits them. Therefore, companies should consider first and foremost the reason why a board is being set up, what it hopes to achieve. Therefore, the minimum and the maximum number of members of a company's board are usually laid down in an article, company's article of association or charter, which can only be changed by special resolution of the members. The board composition. It states that corporate performance is enhanced when there is a board with appropriate competencies so they can discharge their duties effectively. There must be a range of skills, experience, and expertise on the board because good governance means good people. A board is therefore very powerful, and all decisions that are made can become ineffective if the board composition is awkward from inception.
Let's look at ethics under corporate governance. Ethics is an idea of right and wrong behavior, and these are different conceptions that individuals have when it comes to moral values and judgment. Now, the core of corporate governance and the management must reflect accountability for their actions on a global community scale. So, corporate governance considers the welfare of stakeholders. Ideally, it begins with the company's own internal practices and policies. And when it comes to the ethical framework and the value framework under which enterprises take decisions, ethical behavior has a very, very, very important impact, a positive impact on the company's performance. And the main purpose of any structure, such as a corporate governance, is to ensure that there is transparency, fairness, accountability between management and stakeholders. And this has possibility of reducing fraud, mismanagement, malpractices, and as such maintaining ethics. Therefore, examples of unethical behaviors are coercion, which is force, bribery, insider trading, which is a situation whereby stocks are exchanged between individuals to their advantages within the organization, confiding or preventing the members of the public from gaining knowledge about the stock that is being transacted and exchanged. Conflict of interest. For example, the agency theory, where there is conflict of interest between the agents and the management. Unfair discrimination, political donations and gifts, which prevents transparency and honesty and affect integrity in any organization. Presentation of false returns of income and statement, accumulation of profits by legal means. Now, if all this unethical behavior continue to thrive in an organization, then it becomes a bad corporate governance. And every organization's internal practices and policies must be morally, ethically built, sustained, and maintained, considering that every organization has its own objectives and goals. And so these values must tally with the goals of the organization. Otherwise, stakeholders will lose confidence in such an organization. And shareholders also will lose confidence in such an organization. And this will lead to scandals and it will lead to the collapse of such a business. So read more from your notes, you'll get better understanding. What is an institutional investor? It's a non-backed person or organization. They influence the company management. They align the management interests with those of the shareholders. They have very great influence because of their ownership concentration. When it comes to trade securities, they have large enough for them to be influential and to be able to monitor decisions in different organizations and decisions of the board. And this helps in building corporate governance practices in any firm. There are various roles of institutional investors. One, they are initial investors individually and as businessmen in their capacities. We should not forget that most businesses' initial capital must be huge. So, more often than not, institutional investors invest large capital significantly to businesses. Rise of institutional investors by improving the regulation of the stock market. Institutional investors have such a profound impact when it comes to stock market that it can actually increase the trading of stock or it can reduce the trading of stock. Therefore, they have the power, they have the concentrated ability to improve how stock market is regulated. They also have the huge responsibility of being participatory actively and holding large corporations accountable when it comes to transparency and the feedback on their management style. Also, they monitor and control listed companies for the purpose of effectiveness. Now, what are the benefits of institutional investors? They have very significant stakes in companies, and like we mentioned earlier, their capital involvement and their capital base in the company is so significant that when it comes to management of corporations, they cannot be sidetracked. They also exercise influence on promoters and management to prevent abuse, of which some board of directors tends to. There is better access to information and better monitoring capabilities. And there is significant positive correlation between corporate governance and stock market performance. In other words, because they own large shares, they have strong capital base, and they are large investors, they can control and regulate what happens in the stock market. And that means if it is well regulated, then corporate governance becomes effective and efficient. And then shareholders benefit maximally from such a thing. Please visit this site to acquire more knowledge. Also read your core text, your supplementary text. Also go online. You will see numerous books on corporate governance.